So just wanted to do a quick introduction and get the meeting going this evening. And I guess I think the first thing we'd like to do to start the meeting is to have Maxine do an opening prayer to start and to give thanks for everything that we have.
Okay, thank you, Clay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. I just want to ask us to please bear with me. I'd like to share a few words with our Creator and ask you to open your hearts and open your minds to the discussions that we're going to have tonight. Yeah. O kuha kukpi, kukstum kaukti timiuhati ko a muta I takmawats aquanum, kukstum kaukti amashkeit, kukstum kauk takam I chmatskasa muta I takam I ucha miucha. Amats ilhash. Just want to share with you that I thank our Creator for the land, the water, the food that we eat. I thank the Creator for the beautiful day. I thank the Creator for our children, and I thank the Creator for all the human beings. And then I ended the prayer. Just want to share with everyone that it's been quite an opportunity for me, and I feel very pleased to be a part of this Spel community forest. I remember back in the day when we first started, I attended a meeting at the village of Pemberton with the mayor and council, and I have to admit that I was a little shy or nervous, because it was a brand new thing. But when I started to hear Clay speak on the matter, it just, like I said, I welcomed it with my heart, because I just could foresee that we were going to collaborate and work together on things that are very important to all of us, the environment. And, I believe that working together on the environment can go a long ways. We see more things in common than that we don't have in common. So here we are today. We've had a great, successful year. We'll be going through some annual required processes like audits and things. Once everything is cleared up or finalized with that kind of process, we'll for surely be sharing any of that kind of information with communities. And I'm sure we're growing in a very positive way. We're going to be moving into having more senior staff, so that is exciting in itself. And I've been on a board, part of the board for some time now, and just to see the implementation is very different for me. But getting to know everyone a lot better is very positive. I'm sure we're going to be moving into some other processes as we grow. And again, I'm very proud to be a part of such a positive process and doing a lot of learning. It's such a great thing for our valley. I just wanted to make sure I said that. And I get to know Ted and Mike and the rest of the people that are involved, and yeah, just sharing this experience with everyone is so great. So I just want to share those feelings, and hopefully you guys are feeling similar. Kukstum katlap nisti.
Thanks, Maxine. I really appreciate it. Sheena or Mike, did you want to say anything to start the meeting from the village's point of view?
Mike is here, but he's asked me to speak on his behalf. He'd like to thank everyone for joining us this evening to hear about the Community Forests 2021 forestry operations and plans for the next 5 years. Tonight we'll hear from Clay from Little Lot Forestry Ventures on what has been accomplished and what is to come. And first, the village would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge all the people that have worked together to bring this Spel Community Forest to life. Similar to Maxine's sentiments, we feel the same way. Some of you may be aware that this has been years of collaborative effort on the part of the people of Lilwat Nation and the village of Pemberton that led to establishment of the community forest. It's been a very long haul, but a really rewarding journey, I think, for all of us, and a powerful demonstration of what we can accomplish when the communities work together. Mayor and council are very thankful to have been part of this collaboration, and the village as a whole, on behalf of the village staff and council, certainly is really excited to contemplate working together with Lilwat Nation on this new venture. That we really feel will benefit the people of the Pemberton Valley. And we're hopeful that this will be the first venture of a long and prosperous collaboration. So thank you very much for welcoming us onto your territory and allowing us to be part of this really important initiative.
Just before you start, Clay, could I just ask Sheena if she could put me on video? I've got a little blue sign on my, so my video is not working. If not, don't worry. Let's move along because people have to go. So
it's unfortunately, Councillor Tradek, I don't know what is happening. It's not working.
No, that's good. Okay, great. I'm here anyway, so that's good.
There, you could try now. I just punched a little button. There you go.
Thank you very much. There we go. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. I guess I'll start the community forest open house or annual get together anyways with our annual board report. And I will see if I can show it to everyone here. Is this showing on the screen for everyone?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. All right. One more try here. All right. How about now?
It's bringing it up, but it's not on yet.
Okay.
There it is.
There it is.
Okay. So it says Spokane Community Forest Annual Community Report 2021. And yeah, we'll give it a try here. Why the technology is so tricky tonight. Right, just so everyone's aware, and I will be showing a map of the Spokane Community Forest, but it is the land base, a significant portion of the land base that surrounds both the village of Pemberton and the community of Lilwat here. And it's, as most people are aware, it is a partnership between the Lilwat Nation and village of Pemberton. It's located entirely within the Lilwat traditional territory. And the forest license that's held by the two communities is called a community forest license. And it's a license that is managed by the community and therefore, you know, it's not owned by a major licensee. It's not owned by a Canfor or a West Fraser. It's owned by the two communities and therefore is managed by them. And although profits are one of the values the community forest looks at, there's lots of other values, and we will be talking about those here later in the presentation. The community forest agreement was signed in 2020, but as Sheena mentioned, it was a long time coming. I don't know when the first talks of a community forest were, but they were before I was here, and I've been here in this role for over 10 years. So it's been a long time coming, and really happy that we've been able to secure it. The allowable annual cut, so the amount that we can harvest annually, is 11,000 cubic meters, and it is taken out of this this community forest area. And here is a map for everyone, showing the areas of the Spel Community Forest. The area to the south is along the Green River Road and runs actually both to the east and a bit to the west of the junction there, after you cross the bridge going across by the golf course. Other areas that are located in the Spel Community Forest are above the new site on the far east that we can see. There's a section kind of in the middle that was an old woodlot that's in a lot of the in and near the village itself, and above the old reserve here. There is some areas located along Mackenzie Basin. So those of you that are involved in mountain biking or paragliding will probably know that area pretty well. There are also quite a few hunters up there in the fall. And then the other big section is up Miller Creek. So right now it's an area that's not very accessible. It goes through Cedar Grove Estates and is up and located above there. And you can see a significant portion of the community forest is located up there. There is a section as well, as you guys can see, kind of above 1 mile, and a section as you're leaving going south towards Whistler. It would be on the right hand side, kind of up and above the school there, up above Signal Hill. So that's those are all the areas of the Spel Community Forest. The mission of the Spel Community Forest is to operate a safe, profitable, and sustainable community forest. It's managed for environment, social, and economic values, and taking consideration the members of the neighboring communities. So that's what we're working on. It's currently governed by an interim board, and a permanent board will be formed, or is planned to be formed this year. For those of you that want to know, the interim board is made up currently of Mayor Mike Richmond, Councillor Maxine Bruce, who is here, and Councillor Ted Craddock. And we've got Chief Dean Nelson as well, and Carrie Mahaffey from Lilwat Nation. I'm not sure, Sheena, are you currently taking over for, I guess, for Nikki in that role as well in the interim board?
I guess so, yes.
Things change quite quickly in this, so yeah, we do have a new board member here as well. So, and yeah, like I said, a permanent board will be looking to be formed this year. The contract has been signed for Lilwat Forestry Ventures to manage the community forest. And for those of you that don't know, Lilwat Forestry Ventures is a nation-owned forestry company. So our shareholders are Lilwat Nation, and Maxine is the chairman of the Lilwat Forestry board as well, as having other nation members that oversee our board. So we operate and report to Lilwat Nation. And our role is to help manage that. Lilwat Forestry manages significant volumes for Lilwat Nation. We manage close to 100,000 cubic meters of other harvesting. So this additional 10,000 is about another 10% of work on top of it. But as it's close to both communities, we take quite a bit of pride in the work, and it is very important to us. So just to note as well, we do have a policy for marketing logs and fiber, and that is in order to sell it locally to community members. This one's pretty long. it lists all our management goals. For those that kind of want to go over specific ones, we can chat about that in the future. I'll give everyone a minute to kind of look it over, but we've a lot of them have already kind of been discussed. We're talking about strengthening between the two communities, which is really important. Sustainable forest practices. We are and continue to ensure that the work we do is sustainable in the long term, and that there'll be timber and forest values available for multiple generations here. For our kids, our grandkids, our great grandkids, for everyone. It's not just the timber today. It's this is Lilwat's been here forever, and we want to ensure that the areas that Lilwat is managing are here and available for everyone to enjoy for the future. The economic and social benefits are obviously going to be seen in the value of the logs that we do sell, and will ideally benefit both communities. The creation of local jobs is very important, not only for Lilwat Forestry, who does the management, but for our local contractors that do the work with us, from local engineering firms that lay out the cut blocks, or even having Lilwat members doing that, to this spring we have Lilwat Forestry Ventures with all our community members out planting the blocks. We also hire local logging contractors to harvest it, and put it out to bid for them. So we do really want to see these jobs stay local. Operate in an economically viable manner is obviously important. We need to make money. We don't want to lose, and have to borrow money from the bank to keep the forestry going. Support and develop secondary and value-added industries. That's something that obviously has not been very present in the Sea to Sky, but we are looking at opportunities with that as well, and continuing to do that. Collaboration that involves training and education research. It's really important. Lilwat Forestry Ventures has been working in a number of projects with UBC, not only looking at botanical resources, so plants that grow in and around the forest, to we're also looking at mushrooms, pine mushrooms, for instance, in stands that they occur in, and helping to use ecosystems and LiDAR to help find those areas. And another thing we're looking at is cultural burning and wildfires, and how they affect not only the plants that grow in the area and the trees, but looking at berry production and other effects of that as well. So using a lot of education to help with our decision making, and not only that, but including youth in some of it as well. We had two Lilwat youth, grade 10 and 11, out on the cut block today planting trees. So we are including youth in the work that we do as well. Recreational values, we all know the importance of that, and the community that uses it. So we are really taking that into consideration in all that we do. And hopefully now we can actually start meeting in person and going out and looking at some of these things in person, and with the groups that are using the forests. We do obviously hold safety as the highest concern. We want everyone to get home safely, and reflecting other values. So there's other values that the communities may have that they will tell us that we need to then manage for. So some of the activities that we did have a similar open house last year, where we shared information about the harvesting that we did this spring and summer in the Green River, or I guess last spring and summer. One of the events that we had before harvesting in that area was we did bring out the Lilwat Nation's cultural chief, Ashley Joseph, prior to harvesting, and he did a ceremony on the block with everyone involved, the engineers, the company that was doing the harvesting, Shire Enterprises, and Lilwat Forestry representatives as well, myself and Jordan Gabriel. And it was, you know, it was really important in the fact that it did get everyone, you know, thinking more about the forests than just the trees. And he did obviously kind of relay the importance of the forests, which we all know, but he did an amazing job in reminding us, you know, how important they are to everyone. The public and stakeholder outreach is and has been done throughout the process, and we will continually do it. This spring, we did harvest blocks in Mackenzie Basin as well, and that's all wrapped up. And we worked with all the user groups up there. So the bike group, the Trail Association, the Wildlife Association, and you know, and they were very helpful with us as well in sharing that information. The work that we did do was up above the trails, the majority of the trails, and was done at a time that it didn't affect all the riding that was going on down below, because it, you know, with Pemberton thawing out quickly, there was a lot of riders out there. So happy to say that it all went well. And we will continue to chat about one more block that we have planned for this year in early this spring in Owl Ridge. It's a small harvest block, BH902, that currently has been a little bit deferred just because of cutting permits. So if anyone has questions, feel free to enter them in the chat box, and we will go over the questions at the end. This is some of the financial reports from 2021, just so people are aware. There was about 600,000 in sales and 250,000 in expenditures. So we're looking at about 350,000 in profits, and that was off 5,000 cubic meters. The management intentions were all met in those blocks in the Green River, and they will be planted this spring, as I mentioned, with Lilwat members. We've got logs being offered at the landings for local buyers, and we did take, like I said, Mount Currie students out to see the harvesting activities as well. One of the great things, this LiDAR, I'm not sure if anyone's heard of that, but it's a way that we can measure tree heights and slopes, and it not only gives the forest companies good information about areas to harvest, but also areas to protect. And it also gives us information on slopes, and you know, if there's a wildfire threat, for instance, near the community, we have much better mapping information to help the fire crews with that as well. There was, as you can see, lots of firewood taken from the harvest areas that we worked in. It was left, and the communities benefited significantly from the firewood that was left behind in the slash piles. And something to note is that the Wild Forestry has been working with UBC and a couple of researchers there on looking at alternatives to pile burning in order to, I guess, reduce the carbon outputs that we see from pile burning. It is a balance. You know, Lilwat knows the importance of fire on the ecosystems and in the communities, and we do believe that fire is important in some of our ecosystems, but you know, the burning of slash is not necessarily the burning that we want to see happen. And if we can find alternatives to it, we will be doing that. So it's something that we will be working hard on in the next 5 years. Abe, did you want to discuss a little bit about the harvest blocks? I'll introduce everyone as well to Abe Litz. He's our representative from Chartwell and Associates. He's a professional forester and definitely very passionate about what he does, and ensures that you know, the Lilwat values are left on the landscape. He designs site plans which show, I guess you can see here, the levels of retention, stream protection, the coarse woody debris that's left on the ground, the roads, basically all the different values that are reviewed and determined in harvests are set out in the site plan. And Abe is responsible for writing those site plans and ensuring that the harvesting gets done to meet them. So yeah, I'll let you take over, Abe.
Sure. I am having technical difficulties. I can only see bits and pieces of the screen, so I'll let you maintain control and I'll just ask you to flip slides when I'm ready.
Sure.
Yeah, so just to thank you for that, Clay. I just kind of wanted to sort of highlight some of the management things that we do across these blocks. Like as Clay said, we consider a whole range of values, you know, from soils to visual impacts to regeneration to the vegetation, wildlife, water, a variety of different things. And then we have sort of a number of different tools in our toolbox of ways we can manage these different values to ensure that there's no significant adverse impacts. This slide that we're seeing now is just it's just an example. It's one of the blocks that was harvested in Green River. And it's got, this is just a part of the block where we assign single tree retention. And really what single tree retention is meant to do, it serves a few functions. One is it lessens the impact of the visuals a little bit, just kind of breaks up viewscapes. The other thing that it really does is, and the most important thing is it adds a sort of level of sort of structural and biological diversity. So you sort of maintain a bit of that function in the ecosystem. So these tall trees, these individual trees, you know, they provide, you know, perching and small mammals and various birds and critters that can use these things if they're hunting or whatever. Some of you may be familiar too with the concept of the mother tree from Suzanne Samard from UBC. One of the things about the forest that's very important is the microbial, the fungal relationships between the forest and the soils. Those microbial, those fungal relationships, it's a two-way street. The mycelia gain sugars and energy from the tree, and in return they convert organic matter to an inorganic form, nutrients for uptake by the trees. And then when you clear cut, you lose those fungal relationships can be lost very quickly. Within a year or two, they're gone from the soils and they don't have time to get into the small root systems of the regenerating trees. So in a nutshell, that's what the single tree is about. It's just providing these little biodiversity islands to maintain some of these things. We can flip slides. The next one, also GC10B, just another example of, this is sort of the clumped retention, the little retention islands. Some of the other things that, you know, that an example in this picture, if you look at the big clump in the background, if you look at the bottom, there's a big boulder in there, and that boulder is quite large. It's, you know, 15 feet tall and you know, by 15 feet across kind of thing. And on one side of it, there's a large overhanging shelter that's protected from the rain. We don't have any evidence that it is, but it is the kind of thing that may have been historically used as a rock shelter area by First Nations. So we recognize values like that, and you know, we're not sure, but it really has the potential. So let's just put it in this little patch so that we don't mess it up. So again, we're thinking holistically on all the blocks, and we're trying to manage for as many of the values that exist as we can. The other thing that this retention does, if you look through the retention and down the valley, it provides some sort of buffer for the visual mitigation, so that you don't see it quite as well from down. Next slide.
I did want to add in, Abe, too, that when I go out to these blocks, if you know, as I pull up, I often see deer located along these clumped retention areas, and like you said, lots of birds in the individual retention as well. So no, it's super beneficial for the wildlife for sure.
Yeah, it breaks up those sight lines. It gives them some security cover, so you're not looking across hundreds of meters of things. Another thing we did, this is a different block, GC11. We're looking at most of the block in that picture. That's one thing we kind of noted. All of our blocks are kind of designed and meant to be small scale and with organic shape boundaries, so that they do sort of fit into the landscape and kind of mimic a little bit of the natural landscape patterns a bit better. again, this is single dispersed tree retention for the reasons that we've discussed. We can go to the next one. Green River GC11. This is another block. The lookers left is just kind of an example of one of the things that we do. That's actually a road. It's a new road that we constructed to harvest the block. Again, one of the to maintain productivity areas so that we keep as much of the forest growing as we can. Any roads that we don't need to use after logging, we will put back to this condition. We'll decompact it, fluff the soils, put some woody debris down, basically, and then we'll plant it during the reforestation. And so we reclaim that road. So we end up with a lot more of the, of the forest growing trees than if we just left that road to, and you can see anyone that spends time in the landscape, there's, historically that was not a practice that was done. And there's old roads all over the district that are, all aldered in and not really doing anything for anybody. So that's an example of that, and that's why we do that. This picture on your right, it's just kind of to highlight again the small shape with the little small biodiversity islands. One thing you can see that we do there is the block cleanup. You can see the piles along the road. That's what Clay was referring to. We do that again to reduce the wildfire risk, to make sure that we're not leaving a tinderbox explosive situation where if a match goes out or somebody flicks a cigarette out when they're driving by, that it lights up and the whole forest goes. So what we try to do is clean up those roadside areas so that we have a bit of a fuel-free buffer, and we pile those piles along the road with that fuel for disposal via burning. However, as Clay says, we're looking at alternatives to burning. We have to manage the slash. We have to burn it at this point because we can't leave it because it's too much of a wildfire hazard. But we recognize that that it's maybe not the ideal solution. And I think it's fair to say that that's a province-wide issue and it's being addressed at many levels. So, on to the next.
Clay,
Yes.
we do have a question.
Yeah, I did see it. Yeah, I can take care of it while we're looking at the cut blocks here. So yeah, just so everyone is well aware, Little Wild Forestry Ventures does not endorse, nor do we allow for any use of herbicides in any of our blocks. The blocks themselves, are an important producer of food and medicine for Lilwat, and we don't want that. Even though it's said that it's not that harmful for humans and that it goes away really quickly. There's strict I guess word from Lilwat Nation that they don't want to see it happening. So we don't endorse it in any of our timber harvesting practices, nor do we endorse it in any of the work that gets done under and near BC hydro lines, because that's the other area that Lilwat works a lot in. And therefore, yeah, no, it's we don't support that. People may see at times helicopters flying and releasing product. If they do see that, those products are actually fertilizer, and that fertilizer is helping the trees grow and producing nutrients for the trees. We will be monitoring that though as well, and ensuring that it's not affecting the plants that that people are picking. So that's something that will be monitored in the future. But yeah, we want to. I know there was questions of BC Timber Sales using it, and BC Hydro as well using some herbicides in the Lilwat territory. But I know that there's strict rules from that referrals committee in Lilwat not to use it. So.
Yeah, and I would 100% support that. I, as a professional forester, we have lots of other methods in terms of manual treatments using saws and whatnot or machines if it's that level remove brush and to reduce the competition with brush around trees. And yeah, just don't even consider the use of herbicides. It's not in my playbook. So yeah.
We have another question. Can you explain why clear cutting and not selective harvesting in the community forest, but blocks?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, can you explain why clear cutting and not selective harvesting in the community forest, but blocks? And Clay has indicated he'd like to answer.
Yeah,
Sure.
I can answer that. And obviously Abe can help, but so I think it's just asking why we do these small clear cut harvests rather than selectively harvest, so just removing individual trees. And in the past, individual trees were sometimes taken. Generally, though, when we're doing that, you're taking the best trees and leaving the worst for your kids and grandkids. When we do these small harvest clear cuts, we are trying to replicate the effects of wildfire on the stands in a way, taking these small openings. But if anyone's been up to a wildfire location, you can see that there's usually trees that don't burn, and that would be kind of the individual retention as well. The other thing is sometimes we are looking at the wildfire risks near the community, and that's another reason. We do like to leave trees behind at times to provide shaded fuel breaks, but the more volume we can remove from the forest, removing carbon from the forest, the better off it is as a fuel break. We're not going to put a big giant clear cut all the way around Pemberton and Lilwat to make it a fire break, but we are looking at reducing these stands that are of higher value or higher fire risk near the communities. Did you want to add to that at all, Abe?
Yeah, I would just add to that in terms of agreement with you that, yeah, essentially, the select log has its place for individual tree removal, but yeah, if you do that everywhere, what you end up with is a denuded forest that's got too much. You can't regen. You're not growing new trees underneath at any high density because there's too much shade that's occupied. But you've removed if you've removed a component of them, what you're left with on the landscape is a kind of lower value forest. So it's finding that balance. But really it comes down to, we're trying to practice sustainable forestry. Part of sustainable forestry is, that you can take some of the value of the forest and then you replant it and you come back in 50, 60 years and you can get a second, and you can do that in perpetuity. If you do that if you just go with a single stem, it's a single entry. You kind of go in there once, you take those trees, and then that piece of land isn't really providing you with a lot of value in the long term. So yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to that approach, but that's kind of where it comes from. Is that thinking is rotational forestry, and the reason we leave the individual trees or the clumps is to maintain some of that existing biodiversity and ecosystem function, so that it can recover and that you can grow the stand again. Again, change and a distribution of age classes across the landscape is sort of the natural state of the forest. If we weren't here, we would still see, you'd have wildfire or wind throw or whatever. You'd still have these small patches or big patches in case of a big fire across the landscape. There'd be young age class, you'd have old growth. And so again, we're trying to mimic those natural disturbance patterns and kind of maintain that across the landscape.
And I guess to add to that, Abe, too, for those of you that like gardening, if you're gardening, under a whole bunch of trees and you're gardening in an opening like this, you're going to grow your carrots a lot bigger in the openings, and that's, as Abe said, the stand that we harvested here was logged in 1972, and the trees were already this big that we could harvest it again. And in theory, my kids could come in and harvest the block after in another 40 or 50 years from now. So it's, creating these stands, opening them up does help grow a new forest a lot more quickly. But like you also mentioned, Abe, that single tree selection is really important, especially in some ecosystems, and does suit those ecosystems better, especially ones that maybe have less fire disturbance, for instance. So no, thanks. The last question is Liwat phasing out the cutting of deciduous trees now that studies have shown they act as a fire break? We can just answer that quickly as well. And in general, we do try to maintain as much of the deciduous on the landscape as possible. Abe can probably add to that as he writes the site plans, but yeah, we don't like to cut deciduous where we don't have to. So
Yeah, I think, yeah, you've covered it. I don't need to elaborate, I don't think.
They make good bird nests as well. I've seen a lot of the deciduous when I go out there. There's birds living in them, and yeah, I was like seeing that too. So
yeah, exactly. This next slide is just to just sort of highlight another one of the things that we do manage for, which is the visuals. There's sort of provincial government guidance that assigns visual classes objectives to different areas. Mackenzie Basin had a partial retention objective, so we had to design the harvesting to make sure that it would meet that objective. One of the tools we use is we have landscape modeling software where we can basically project the blocks onto a realistic sort of 2D view of what the landscape will look like, after logging, to give us an idea. And then from that, we can do an assessment and measure the amount of visual disturbance and make sure that we're within the limits. So these are examples of visual renders. The right-hand image, the blocks, the Mackenzie MK5 and MK1 are the green highlights that are visible, and the left-hand rendering is the same thing. It's just with the blocks not highlighted. So from that you can see that the anticipated from the modeling, we anticipated that the blocks would be just barely visible and really kind of a very, very small percentage of the disturbance. If we go to the next slide, we can see this is an actual photo that was taken 2 or 3 days ago, compares the model to the actual view. And you can see that our modeling was pretty accurate. You can see, yeah, I mean, you can see on the right-hand image, the little bit of the retention patch that's in the middle, and you can see that basically the amount of disturbance that occurred from these viewpoints was about what we anticipated. So again, I just wanted to include this slide just to, a lot of people aren't aware that that's one of the values we consider, and that we actually have some pretty powerful software tools to make sure that we're meeting those objectives. And so this is one of them. Yeah. Mackenzie Basin areas. Again, the foreground of the left-hand picture is an old road. So we built a road that went from the existing Mackenzie Basin FSR into the block area. Because we're not going to need that road again, we deactivated the road. So the foreground of that is what, that was a road that you could drive on, and now it will be planted. And so they'll, again, just a lot less visual impact. We left 10 stems per hectare of the biggest trees in this particular block, which was an old growth block. Again, for the reasons we talked about, to maintain some structural and biological diversity, as well as to maintain some of the mycorrhizal fungal connections in the root systems. The picture on the right is the upper Mackenzie block, still under snow. This one is kind of an example of, sort of what it looks like post-logging. I included this because the one thing I kind of wanted to talk, to note is that, we monitor our results, and we, when I did a post-harvest inspection of this last week, I noted that that there's seems to be a bit more slash and green than we want on the roadsides. We didn't quite, like our contractor didn't quite achieve the cleanup issues. So again, I just, wanted to bring that forward, that we'll go and we'll look at that stuff. And if there's things that haven't been met, we're going to send the contractor back up there to repile that stuff and clean up that roadside fringe so that there's less chance of a fire start on the edge. This is up in Mackenzie Basin. Again, one of the big values that we recognize is public use of the forest for recreation. We recognized in Mackenzie Basin that there was obviously a huge mountain bike presence up there, and that there really a potential safety issue exists if you've got logging trucks and equipment rolling up and down that road at the same time as the bikes, and bikes can appear out on the road, as you all know, in the blink of an eye. So we worked quite closely with Cumberland Valley Trails Association and with Porca. Thank you, Emily and Bree and Simon, for your time in talking with us and kind of coming up with strategies. And so this is one of the strategies that we identified to just kind of make it a little, as well as having signage around the active logging so that people knew it was there. We put these signs up for road users. Essentially, I mean, they're for the logging truck drivers, but they're really for everybody, and they're going to stay there. Is just to, how to coexist with the recreation users and the industrial use on the land. Well, this is one way of kind of keep people safe. So, that was something that the community forest, got these signs done and installed. And, we hope that they make a difference. On the safety side, one of the other things on the Mackenzie Basin Road that we recognized is that there's a ton of traffic, bike traffic on that road, and there's also vehicle traffic. And vehicle traffic can't be going fast because there's too many users. So we fixed the road up and tuned it up to do the logging. At the end of the logging now this week, we're going back and we're putting in nice drivable cross ditches again that act as speed bumps to essentially to manage traffic. So again, just another way that we're sort of thinking, how can we work together with the groups and the other users and make sure that we're all respecting each other's needs. And that's that. So that's my bit done. Thank you.
We do have another question or with some comments. Would you like me to read it? Or so that everybody
yeah, I can't read it because I
okay, so I'll read it. I'll read it. Is anything second growth of so approximate what %, or is it all old growth? That's the first question.
I can share my screen if that's all right, and I'll share some of these answers. The 300-year-old larger trees that you may see do not get exported, nor do any of the Western red cedar. Any of the big trees that you see that leave here get made into the specialty items that people love to have. If you look at a bar at one of the restaurants and it's that big slab of fir, then that's what it's getting made of. And generally those get milled down on the Lower Mainland. There's hundreds of specialty mills down there that cut live edge and big beautiful slabs or timbers. None of the Douglas fir nor any of the Western red cedar, like I said, get exported. They're all managed, or they're all harvested locally. And for us, locally means in British Columbia and generally in the Lower Mainland, and even our smaller fir, they all get shipped to generally one of two mills, to Richmond Plywood or to Coastline and Nanaimo. So we are pretty well aware of where all our logs go, and in the last few years there's been very little exported outside the province. It's almost all kept to our local British Columbia mills.
The second,
we talk about some of the blowdown and stuff like that, but and minimizing that. Secondary log manufacturing, there are some local companies looking at it. I know there's a secondary log manufacturing facility in the Lower or in Squamish that's getting developed. And I think we do send some of our logs over to the pole yard to Drew, at the pole yard. And so, yeah, we're continually looking to see how we can use them more locally. It's obviously beneficial for us if we don't have to ship them as far, we can get more money from them. So that's a real benefit. And before we talk about the blowdown, I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. And just so everyone's aware, when we go to harvest in the Shpokuma Community Forest or any of our harvest areas, we manage these area-based tenures ourselves, and we use a form or a scientific calculation called, that calculates our timber supply, so how much we have and how much we can harvest annually. And there's a lot of data that comes along with the timber supply analysis. And I just wanted to share a couple of things. The first is a map showing the two different colors of green, if everyone can see. The light green is the timber harvest land base, so that's where we're allowed to harvest. And the dark green are areas that are protected. So as people can see, the majority of the Shpokuma Community Forest is actually outside the timber harvest land base. The gray is non-forested areas, ice, snow, rock. The green is dark green is forested areas that we're not allowed to harvest. The light green are areas that we're allowed to harvest. I'm going to zip down because there was a question about age class. And here's the age classes that we've calculated for the Shpokuma Community Forest. So again, none of this is secretive, but you can see, there are some older trees located in the Shpokuma Community Forest that are in our timber harvest land base, and we may be harvesting. When you look at the number of hectares, though, we're only looking at about 175 hectares within that area that we're allowed to harvest of the 900 hectares. So we're going to be protecting, again, over 600 hectares of that older age class. We look at the 260-year-old age class. Again, the majority is in protected areas, and even the over 200. If I don't have the math in front of me, but you can see the majority of the areas over 200 years are in this dark green. The areas that are, they're forested, but they're protected. And even in the younger age classes, these areas that are protected, let's say they're 160 years. Well, in 40 years from now, they're going to be 200 years old as well, because we're not going into these stands. These are all protected. So we're actually recruiting more old growth in here. But some of the areas that you can see that are in our timber harvest land base, there's lots that are in this 40 and 40, 50-year-old stands, and those are the second growth that we're harvesting in here. But we will have to take small portions of all these different age classes out here, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to identify stands that are specifically getting harvested for different products and different clients. But yeah, that's a little bit more kind of the information that we have.
Could I just jump in there, Clay? Just to give people a little bit of a sort of an idea. Those protected areas, there's a whole range of things that have been established for protection. So there's not one specific thing, but essentially it covers ungulate winter range. So areas that you can't log that are off limits to the harvesting because they're used by moose or deer or mountain goats. We've got grizzly bear WHAs, which are reserves for grizzly bears only. We've got spotted owl WHA, which is wildlife habitat area for spotted owl. We have goshawk WHA, which is protected areas specifically for the goshawk. We've got old growth management areas, OGMAs, which are established across the landscape, which are established like polygons of old growth forest that are off limits from harvesting and will always be in little mini parks. So I just wanted to kind of mention that there's a number of reasons why an area may be off limits to harvesting, and those reasons are, have been thought through. It's not just like, oh, we're going to protect that hillside. We're going to protect that hillside because we know there's moose on, we know there's grizzly or whatever it is. So just wanted to add that.
All right, thanks, Dave.
We have a couple more questions. Many community members have asked that we stop cutting old growth trees, as only 3% of BC's old growth is left. They're asking for a shift in practice rather than continuing to balance values and rationalizing cutting down our oldest trees? Can we put this into the community forest policies?
I can answer that. I mean, I guess I just did show the graph there that showed there's significantly more than 3% of the old growth in the Spokane community forest that is available, right? I mean, there's highly significant amounts of old growth still remaining in the Spokane community forest and in our other forest tenures. We are going to be working more closely with in the next year to really help identify not only old growth, but important old growth, and not only important old growth to all of BC, but important old growth to our local community. So to Leawatt and to the village, you know, where is the important old growth to you and to me, and then, you know, ensure that those areas are the areas that we're, you know, considering and protecting, and not just look at, you know, blanket numbers that are provided to us by the government. Abe and I talk about it all the time that, you know, we need to get down to the stands in the areas and look at how they're getting managed, and really use the real numbers that are taken from the areas around here. A lot of these blanket statements, whether it's 3% by one user group or 35% by another user group of the amount of old growth there is in the province, really doesn't matter when, you know, each of the areas in the province is so significantly different, right? We're so much different than you know, Vancouver Island, we're so much different than the Okanagan, and we're so much different than Prince George. You know, our trees are different, the way we use the forests are different, and the values we have in the forest are different. So we will be looking at old growth as one of the important values that these forests bring to us, and we will be seeing if there's changes that are necessary to be made. But I don't know, I was hoping that age class distribution in our community forest shows that, you know, there's significant amounts of our forests that are protected. Probably, I think it's 75% of the forested land in the Spokane community forest is protected, and that you know, there is large amounts of old growth in it. You know, if we were to change areas that are protected, we could probably harvest more second growth, but then that would, again, as Abe said, probably affect other values. So we might be able to log more second growth and keep more old growth, but then that means we might be, you know, harvesting in deer winter range. And I don't think, you know, these values are looked at often by, you know, biologists and specialists that definitely know a lot more about all these different values than us. We have goshawk wildlife habitat areas. We have spotted owl wildlife habitat areas. We have grizzly bear, you know, wildlife habitat areas, and then we have, you know, cultural areas as well that the Leawatt Nation wants protected. So we have multiple values on the landscape, not just old growth. So yeah, we will be looking into it, but I can't guarantee that, you know, that Leawatt Nation and the village of Pemberton and the community forest will make that decision. It's, you know, it is managed by a board, so we'll find out more after that, and we provide them the information. And that kind of, how are the protected areas established? Often they're established by the ministry, but the LRMP process that happened did have collaboration with the Leawatt Nation and community user groups as well. So.
We have another question. Do youth from Pemberton have the opportunity to join field trips to see harvested areas and join Leawatt Forestry Ventures in tree planting?
Yeah, we would love that. It's we're trying to collaborate more. I know I did a presentation at the Whistler School, and I'd be happy to collaborate with Pemberton High School as well on both you know, field trips and just seeing the value that forestry brings to even a small community like here. So
yeah, I would second that. I would welcome the opportunity to work with youth groups and to work with some of the schools, and like Clay said, come in and do a presentation, take them on a little field trip, show them some maps and stuff. And yeah, I think it's really important for our youth to to understand how we're taking care of the forest. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thanks. I will, I was gonna share the harvesting as well. The harvest plans we have coming up. But we can answer these couple questions, and then I will share the upcoming harvest plans after that. So the first one, can you go back to the usage map and speak to the hectares above the homes, Ellen Reed Road? I can zoom into that one. And the next question, the Cheakamus Community Forest has chosen to defer old growth logging because of the community pressures. Since the board represents all stakeholders, how can we come to a consensus on the issue of old growth logging in a timely manner? And again, I think that's above me and being the forest manager. I think again that would be more discussions with the board, and obviously looking at the implications of that as well. So Katrina, I know that we have had emails back and forth, and I'm I'm happy to work more closely in the future with you, and hopefully the board can as well, because we do want to look at the values, and like I kind of explained earlier, it's all the values of the forest, and old growth is one of the very important values. So maybe I will I'll look at the harvest plans, and then kind of maybe go back to the Reed Road issue, and if it looks like Margot, if you do want to get more information as well, I'm happy to look at it more closely with you after as well. So let me just pull up our harvest plans for the next few years. All right, I'm hoping everyone can see this. This is showing harvest plans for the remainder of 2022. The primary area that we will be harvesting in is up and above Miller Creek. Currently, like I said, that area is accessed it's currently accessed through Cedar Grove Estates, so it's very difficult to access. But we will be looking at an alternative access to get up into there. It goes past the Interject IPP hydro project that's at the bottom of it, and then goes up quite a bit higher. And we've got these 4 harvest blocks proposed up there. They are along the roadsides and near and accessed a lot by the new Interject hydro lines that run across the mountain. You can see those there in yellow here. We do also have harvest blocks planned over in the Lower Mackenzie Basin area that currently are helicopter access blocks, and just because of the steep roads over here, and they will be flowing across the river, and the current blocks that we have here and maps aren't necessarily exact as we continue to monitor and update them. So I'll show you 2023, and all these maps are available for people who are interested in seeing them. So this is 2023 harvesting. It's over on the Green River. Again, the majority, the GR 902 blocks here that are up higher. It gets further south on the map, but scattered across the mountainside here are all heli blocks, and we'll have trees individually removed from them. They are higher value logs for in cedar, but we will only be taking a certain percentage of them selectively to ensure that we're not going to go in and take all the best logs, nor are we going to take all the highest value cedar. We are just going to take a certain percentage of them. to ensure sustainable harvesting in that area. And there are some second growth blocks as well located at the bottom of the Green River that will be planned to be harvesting in that year. In 2024, we plan to harvest up and above the blocks that we harvested in 2022. Up in Miller, up at the top, it's here it's showing a fairly large polygon. It's not going to be one big clear cut by any means. It will be broken up, but this is the area that we've identified as potential harvest. And again, it's a higher elevation. So the bottom of the 2022 blocks is where the timber type changes from a fir cedar stand into more of a hemlock and balsam stand. So we will be harvesting up in the hemlock balsam areas, so higher elevation. And for 2025, we have additional blocks located in the Green River. Some of them lower elevation, along roadsides, smaller openings, similar to what we would have done this year in the GR blocks. And the final year, 2026, we're just sharing the information. We have blocks located at the bottom of the Rutherford, or sorry, at the top of the Rutherford. We've got this K5X. Oh. The K5X is the community forest license. We've got some blocks up here located at and below the Rutherford, and then one more additional block here located over on the Green River. So again, I'm not sure if that helped everybody. I think that you know, it's showing that the blocks that we have identified right now have timber as the primary value. We don't have blocks in this list that are specific for fuels management, nor are they specific to, you know, kind of, you know, helping out bike trails, any of the other kind of values. They take them into consideration, but aren't actually necessarily done specifically for that. We will be trying to incorporate into the community wildfire protection plan. And that community wildfire protection plan will then help us to incorporate some of the harvesting that we do closer to the community with the community values, and ensuring that the work actually helps to protect the community from wildfires, but also creates some forest revenue. So that's kind of what we're looking at the moment, is trying to do a combination, but that work hasn't been done. We just started working with a forest fire specialist from North Van, and Nick Sovrel and his group, Frontera. And we did look at the blocks at the bottom of Owl Ridge as our first, the BH902 block as our first kind of task, to ensure that the work we're doing isn't increasing fire hazard near the community, and in fact is helping to, you know, to lower it. And we will be doing that into the future as well. So I'm hoping that, you know, people realize that, yeah, that the work we're doing is looking at all the values, but is specifically looking for timber harvesting, but as we get closer and closer to the community, looking to make it fire safe and resilient. Margot's asking, here, I'll answer that one. This is a community venture, so what percentage of profits and logging go back to the communities? So right now, I don't know if that decision is still being determined by the board. So the Village of Pemberton and Lilwat Nation are the two shareholders in the community forest. SLRD currently isn't a shareholder, and the two communities are and will make decisions. The board will make decisions on how the profits get distributed. Lilwat Forestry Ventures just takes a management fee off of overseeing the harvesting. So not specifically, you know, taking a percentage of the profits per se, but just taking a management fee by the cubic meters getting harvested. So
I can just elaborate a little bit on the community amenities. The board, one of the tasks of the board will be to develop a community amenity contribution type program, which we've been doing some research at the staff level and looking how other boards and community forests distribute the profits out to the community for community purposes. So that is something that staff is working on. And once we have the new administrator, it will be one of the items to bring forward to the board for their approval in terms of policy and how that will work. And then the distribution process and how community groups or organizations can make access or make application to funding, and then how the two communities themselves want to distribute the funds and what process that will be. So that is something that will be worked on, and we're hoping that the new administrator will be able to take that on and bring that to the board for approval relatively quickly after being hired.
There was a question about maps, and I just put my email address on there. So if anyone is interested in getting any of the information that we shared tonight, feel free to email me at the moment. And as Sheena mentioned, hopefully the administrator will be able to start sharing that information as well with community members as they're interested, as that person does get hired.
Yeah. We do have a lot of maps on our website, and we do put them up as they are provided to us as they are also available on Lilwat's website. This is because we don't have a community forest website yet, so we're sharing the information.
The next question is a possible breakdown, the proposed cut blocks, old growth, second growth, retention. That's asking a little bit too much at the moment. You know, as everyone can be pretty well aware, we just took over the endeavor. We have some of the timber typing information, but you know, our 5-year plan is you know, we've jumped into this management of the community forest, you know, and jumped right into the deep end and got things going quite quickly in order to start, you know, start building some momentum that, you know, hopefully can continue and benefit the community by. But a lot of these areas have just been identified using LiDAR information, looking at slopes and looking at timber types. We will, for 2022, have all the information, and we'll be working on the 2023 blocks this year. The 2024 will probably be recceing this year as well, but we don't have the 5 years of blocks completely laid out, ribboned, and identified with retention types, for instance. I think if you're interested in that type of detail, you know, you can feel free to email and we can provide you some of that as it happens, or you know, but it's not something that forest companies, you know, like ourselves, we don't have the capacity to have 5 years of blocks laid out ahead of us, unfortunately. So, but no, we will know this. You know, we do know the stuff for 2022, and we'll know the stuff for 2023 here quite soon, and can share it then.
Yeah. Hey, Clay, I'll just jump in there and say, yeah, I think what they may be referring to is like the information that we posted on the Mackenzie blocks that kind of gave the breakdown of what was there, the values of the logging systems. So the answer is yes, we will provide that block by block basis as we get closer to it. So, you know, we can probably reasonably expect by, you know, sometime in the summer, there'll be the next batch of blocks will have that information. We'll have the layout, we'll have identified the values, we'll have identified what we need to do for retention, creek protection, wildlife protection, and all that stuff will get posted. So there will be opportunity again to comment on it. It's just we don't have it right now, and it's just an iterative process for that.
There's another question that talks, the forest is so important. I'm sort of paraphrasing here, is so important to so many as our actions and strategies to address climate change, forest retention as a climate change mitigation strategy. Is there an opportunity or a commitment to keep the communities engaged on updates and opportunities to provide feedback on policies, processes, plans on an ongoing basis? So one of the roles of the administrator when that person is hired is to develop an engagement, a community engagement campaign or process and program, and there'll be opportunities for community input, most likely on a more regular basis than we have had due to the current situation where we've and staff in both Lewat and Village have been working on this as part of their regular daily duties as well. So we will be, that is something that is on the list for the new board, the new administrator, and then ultimately the new board to support and provide guidance to. So that is an important component of this process, and we will make sure that everybody stays is well informed.
Okay, and I'll go back to answer the last question there. Thanks, Sheena. The last one was just about Reed Road and the location there. And here's the overview map that shows that area. And if you see here, there is a majority of area above Reed Road that is currently in this gray area, which is deer winter range. So there is a big section right here that won't be harvested, or if it will be, is harvested only in very small amounts in order to keep that overstory to intercept snow and, you know, to allow the deer to have a place to go to feed in the winter time. So that's the deer winter range. And that I'm hoping that kind of explains to people, you know, I know there was concerns with some of the deer and the harvesting that we did up Mackenzie Basin, but you can see the amount of deer winter range is in this brown here, and these are all areas that are protected for deer, and they're quite significant in the Mackenzie Basin area. When we look at areas above Lewat here, we've got some deer winter range, as well as I think this one might be goat winter range as well. They're located above there. And in and along the Green River, there's a huge amounts of culturally protected areas as well. I think the green is old growth management area. So you can see the green areas here, all the old growth management. So not to say that, you know, the trees that are in deer winter range aren't old growth, or the deer, you know, that are in areas here, you know, the goat or winter range aren't old growth either, but there is additional old growth protected in those as well. The dark purple is are the proposed cut blocks, and they're in different age classes. I can show you guys kind of zoom out.
There is a question about the pink. What are the purple areas? What is the purple area? Sorry, the light purple above Reed Road. Or sort of that pinky color.
That's, I think that would be the cultural places. It's so I know it goes up the owl, and we do significant amounts of cultural reviews on those. Is that, Abe, you know this quite well as that?
Yeah, that's the Owl Creek education area. So that zone has been designated by the Lilwat as an area where we can harvest, but the idea is, you know, we need to harvest with being very sensitive and aware that the area is important for the as an education area, to take youth up, to take people up, to sort of you know, show them the different plants and the different uses of the forest. So any harvesting that happens within the cultural education area, it goes through a pretty rigorous consultation process with the Lilwat to make sure that we're not impacting on, and that the harvesting is done in a way that's very sensitive to the cultural uses up there. So.
And just so people are aware too, at the top of Owl, there are 2 newer cut blocks, and they will have cultural burns completed on them this year to increase berry production. So that's, like I said, as we start changing the management practices that are happening, Lilwat is looking to increase the amount of burning they're doing, and that's one area to help increase huckleberries. So and hopefully that goes well, and we'll be able, we have one for the fall as well in the Tankwell area. So it's going to be something that we're going to hopefully be seeing more and more of. So.
Yeah, just to add to that a little bit, that is that landscape up at the top of Owl, sort of the Owl Lakes chain trail, that whole zone has had a long history of cultural burning practices where the First Nations with the Lilwat would go up there and annually burn different sections of the forest to open up the canopy and to promote berry production. The huckleberries and whatnot that come back after that fire. So essentially, you know, that we feel that doing a cultural burn in a block in Owl is you know, it's very well supported by the nation, because it's something that, again, we can take the youth to and show them, you know, this is the impacts of forest management, and this is how the ancestors used to do it, and it's really important to maintain those connections. So something we take very seriously.
All right. Just we'll put it out there to all the participants and to our panelists if we have anything else to add. I do appreciate everyone's time. I know it's we've gone a little bit over time, but you know, as you can probably tell by all of us, that we are very passionate about the work that we're doing here. It's it does mean a lot to us. You know, this area is close to communities and holds multiple values, and we really do take the management of it seriously. We are looking at all the values and want to manage to the best that we can in order to you know, keep the ecosystems healthy, not only, you know, for us, but for our great grandkids, right? It's the way that we work in forestry. Is it's not just the profits we make today. It's you know, it's the healthy ecosystems into the future. So yeah, I'll leave it open here and see if anyone else has any questions or comments. And yeah, if not, we'll look at wrapping it up. Thanks.
I'd just like to say thank you to Clay and Abe for a tremendous presentation. I think it's great that we've had so many participants. I see that we had 24 at one time. So it's great that people are taking an interest and seeing what the present board is doing and what what is facing the future board and the new executive director. So thank you again for the great presentation. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ted. And yeah, if nobody else has any comments, yeah, I will. We'll be looking at leaving the meeting here. Thanks to our technical committee here, Sheena, and getting the Zoom up and running. I know it was a little bit for all of us at the beginning, but happy we could do this. And then I do really look forward to more open houses where we can actually see each other and talk and look at these maps in person. And I do see that happening. I know that before this, COVID has kind of changed our lives pretty significantly, but I do see the engagement with the community as being really important. And we do look forward to even taking people out into the field and looking at some of the work that we're doing here in the upcoming future. So yeah, I'm really excited for that too. I know that Abe and I love showing people the stuff that we're doing and explaining to them, all the different values that we're looking at. So yeah, I do really look forward to that too. So thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Clay. Thanks, Abe.
Thanks, everybody. It was great.
Have a great night, everyone. Thanks. Bye.